Today's siyum will be on the tractate of Avodah Zarah. And here, the Gemara ends with a practical halacha, a practical law. And that is, if you have a knife, and the knife is not kosher, and now you want to kosher the knife, what do? Says the Gemara, you take the knife and you thrust it into the ground 10 times. That is the halacha. However, says the Gemara, you can only use that knife for cold things, cold food. You cannot use it for hot food. If you want to use it for hot food, then you have to do proper agala, which means to pour hot water on the knife. We're now going to do the Gemara inside, and the Gemara ends with a unique and beautiful story. Says the Gemara like this. Amar Rav Huna b'rei Rabbi Yeshua. Rav Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, says, Lechel b'tzoynein. When is this good to put the knife into the ground only to eat cold food? Ki hadmar Huda uvati bar toivi. And now the Gemara goes on to tell the story of Rabbi Yehuda, as Rashi and Tosfos tell us, and a person by the name of Vati bar Tuvi. These two people have a Yosvei Kamei, the Shabor Malka. They were sitting in front of the king Shabor Malka. Who was King Shabor? King Shabor was the emperor of Persia and Mesopotamia from the years 241 to 272 of the Common Era. A very powerful person. He was not Jewish, but King Shabor was proficient in Jewish law. He knew halacha. So when these two people sat down in front of the king, what did he do? Says the Gemara, Aitu lekame esrega. They brought the king an esrig to eat. What did the king do? Pasak and ochal. He cut off a piece and he ate from that piece. Then, says the Gemara, Pasak v'havle levati bartuvi. He sliced off another piece and he gave the second piece to the person by the name of Bati. After that, what did the king do? Being that the knife was not kosher, he took the knife and he thrust it into the ground 10 times. He now made it kosher, and he sliced another piece of the esrig, and he gave it to Mar Yehuda. Pasak, Havle Lamar Yehuda. What happened? After he gives the esrig to Mar Yehuda to eat, now it's kosher, he made a bracha and he ate it. Is Amar Le Bati Bartovi. The first person who was Bati says to the king, my dear king, Vahu Gavra, Labba Yisrael, am I not Jewish? For me, you give a piece of the esrig that's not kosher, but for Yehuda, you put it into the ground, you make the knife kosher. Says the Gemara, Armalei, the king responded, Mar Kimle Bigavei. He said to Bati the following, I am aware of this scrupulous person, Rabbi Yehuda. However, I know that he would not eat something which is not kosher, even by the pain of death. However, Umar loikim li begavei. While regarding you, I am unaware. The Gemara gives another answer. Iked amri amalei itkar mai avarta beurita. Hadon Allah hasoiches apoyol uslikallah mesech Avodah Zarah. So now to elaborate on the story a bit, and to perhaps connect it to my grandfather, Rabbi Jacob J, Hecht, of blessed memory. First and foremost, if the king knew halacha, he also knew that this person, Bati, was Jewish. How come he did not put it into the ground? And the answer is that there's another halacha, and the king knew this halacha. And the law is that a king is not allowed to do work in front of commoners. And for him to put the knife into the ground in front of a commoner is a prohibition. He was not allowed to do that. So for Vati, who would eat the fruit because he would not die because of this, because of course if he would not eat the fruit, he would be committing treason and the king would kill him. So he had to eat the fruit. But Rabbi Yehuda would not eat the fruit. If the king did not kosher the knife, the king knew this, and because of that, the king went and he koshered the knife for Rabbi Yehuda. This is the story. How do we connect this to Rabbi Jacob Yehuda Hecht and his life? My dear friends, I would like to connect, number one, the name Rabbi Yehuda to my grandfather, number two, the esrig, and number three, the knife. Number one, pertaining to Rabbi Yehuda. Who is Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda was a person who lived a life of Mesiras Nefesh. How do we know this? Because the Gemara says, Rav Papa asked Abaye, how come for us God does not perform miracles, but he performs miracles for Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemara, because Rabbi Yehuda lives a life of Mesiras Nefesh. Because he's willing to die for God, therefore he is worthy that God performs for him miracles. The Rebbe, in his famous talk on Zaydi Hecht, said that this was a Yid who dedicated his life to chinuch, to educate children, in release time program, in Camp Amuna, etc., etc. And he said that Zaydi Hecht does this biz mitoich mesiras nefesh. He does this to the degree of self-sacrifice. He puts his whole life and his whole soul into serving Hashem. So this is Rabbi Yehuda. What is the connection to the esrig? Why dafka an esrig? The king can have an apple, he can have an orange, a pineapple, a watermelon. Why dafka an esrig? We know what is unique about an esrig is it has a good smell and a good taste. When Zaydi Hecht did a mitzvah, he did it with a smell and a taste. Many people do mitzvahs, they do it reluctantly because they have to. When he did a mitzvah, the whole shul was jumping and dancing. He davened with a geschmack. He said Havdalah with a behirus. Everything he did was with life. There was a taste to the mitzvah. There was a smell to the mitzvah. And finally, the concept of a knife. What is a knife? The Minchas Elazar says when you eat, everything on the plate should have a connection to Elokus. What should you think about when you have a knife on the table? So he says you should think about the statement in the Zohar, the Nama Apum Charbel Lechel, which means that you have to have a sword in order to eat bread. However, there's a teaching of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says that really we have to learn it Charbel Lechel, and that is we have to eat the sword. We have to eat the knife. What does that mean? So the Rebbe gives a hesber. He explains that in truth, the idea of achila, the idea of eating, is elevating the sparks. And therefore, every day of our life, we are in a war. It's a war to take the good out of the bad, to elevate these sparks. But the ultimate level is to eat the sword, which means total ishapcha, total transformation. To reach the level when we beat the swords into plowshares, a time when the Garzevim Keves, that the wolf and the lamb shall live together. And this, I believe, is the meaning of the Gemara when you take the knife and you put it into the ground eats up the knife. And you do this not once and not twice, but 10 times, because by doing so, you are elevating and transforming all the Eser, Kochas, and Nefesh, from Chachma, being the Das, etc., and all the Midos, and they become totally transformed. My dear friend, I remember once sitting with my grandfather, and he was in the office, and he sat me down, and he said to me, Aaron Leib, I want you to look at the wall. There are pictures, and there are many newspaper clippings. You should know, never did I do something to get my name in the paper. Never did I do something to have my picture taken with the president. I did it for the sake of God, for Torah, for Yiddishkeit, and I did it for the sake of the Rebbe. So we hope and pray that we who are children and grandchildren, who are inspired by Rabbi Hecht, should continue in his ways, and we should be zoiche, like Zaydi said, on the day of Tu B'Av, the day that he passed away, Erev Tu B'Av. He said, Ich wart shein after Greise Yom Tiv. I am waiting for the big Yom Tiv. So we hope and pray to be zoiche to the big Yom Tiv, as it says, Loi Hoyom Teim Nisrach Hamishas B'Av, that there was never such a great Yom Tiv like the 15th day of Av, for the coming of Mashiach, B'mheira B'yameinu, Amen. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any question, please write it in the comments.